I want to welcome you and thank you for coming. I want to thank Armstrong and Bowman Auditorium, OU. This is a beautiful place to host something. So we did some coin flips to sort of start everything out. But first, every candidate can introduce themselves in about 5 minutes each to introduce themselves and talk a little bit. And so that's a good thing. And we're going to start on the introductions at the far end with Jason Tolliver.
I'm Jason Tolliver. I'm a lifelong resident of Lawrence County. I have several businesses in Lawrence County. One of them is Early Construction. It's a union affiliated with the multiple crafts throughout the area, the tri-state building trades. And we employ several hundred people, depending on our workload, anywhere from, on a daily basis, is around 100, 150, up to 600 people. Again, that is depending on our workload. Graduated from Fairland High School, also graduated from Ohio University Southern, and have a good resume, great record. And if you elect me on November 6th, I'll give you results. Thank you.
This is our 5 minutes, correct, Scott?
It is.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, very good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. County government is designed by Ohio law with each elected county official responsible for certain areas of public life. Each office holder is ultimately responsible to the people of Lawrence County, which is why we are elected separately. So how does the auditor fit into this design of county government? The auditor's office is the administrative and the financial hub of local government. The financial decisions made by the office holders, the boards, and the departments within the county are carried out by the auditor's office. Also, the auditor's office plays a pivotal role in assisting the other taxing entities, the townships, the school districts, the library, and the municipalities when they have issues regarding local government funding. For example, we don't arrest anyone in the auditor's office, but we process the payroll for the sheriff's deputy who does. We don't appropriate money, but the auditor determines how much money is available for the commissioners to appropriate. We don't set property tax rates or collect property taxes, but the auditor distributes the funds collected by the county treasurer to the taxing entities across the county who did authorize those taxes to be collected. In a lot of ways, the auditor's office is like a big mirror, with the job of the county auditor to make sure this mirror presents an accurate picture of what is going on. Now, just like any other mirror, sometimes we may not like what we see, but it is my job as the auditor to make sure that this picture is clear and true so that we can see the results of the financial decisions made by others. As you might imagine, the nature of the auditor's office requires the county auditor to have a keen understanding of government finance, to have an abundance of institutional knowledge, and an ability to work well with others. Most importantly, the county auditor must also have the strength to stand firm and say no when the numbers don't add up. My professional experience and background make me very qualified to serve as your county auditor. I have college degrees in finance and business management, and I am a certified financial planner certificate. I have served in county government for 18 years, and I know how the county government functions. And I've also proven that I operate the auditor's office by the book. From the enhancements to the physical office itself, to the upgrades to the auditor's website, to the cooperation with other government entities and the other office holders, I am proud of the efforts of all of us in the auditor's office that we've made over the last 7.5 years to improve, modernize, and make the auditor's office more customer-friendly for everyone. Perhaps this professional approach to managing the auditor's office is why I've been gathering the support of so many different people and organizations from across the political spectrum. My re-election as Lawrence County Auditor has been endorsed by the Lawrence County Republican Party, the Tri-State Building and Trades Unions, Teamsters Local 92, AFSCME Power in Action, and the former longtime Lawrence County Auditor Ray T. Duty, plus many other community leaders across Lawrence County. On a personal level, my family and I have lived in the public eye for nearly 2 decades here in Lawrence County. You've watched us grow up through the years. You've watched me coach your kids and your grandkids. You've watched me volunteer in our communities. You've watched me mature professionally as well. I do believe in continuous improvement, and I do my best to prove myself to be a reliable and even-tempered person who you can count on to work hard on your behalf. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to serve you. In the future, I will continue to deliver proven reliability, excellent qualifications, and vital experience to the auditor's office as your county auditor. I will always continue to operate the auditor's office in a professional, efficient, and customer-friendly way. I look forward to answering your questions tonight. Thank you.
Bob?
First of all, Scott, I want to thank you and the Ironton Tribune for sponsoring this and for allowing us to talk to our folks. I never really expected to be here. I think everybody here knows the rough outline of my story, that I was a high school football coach and a teacher for almost 40 years. And I never really had any desire to run for political office, especially for county commissioner. And when folks came to talk to me about a little more than a year ago, to talk to me about running, I said, I only want to do this if I think I can do something big and make people's lives in Lawrence County better. And as I began to sit back and do some research and think about what I wanted to try to do, I really honed in on 3 goals, 3 things I want to try to accomplish. And by far the most important is economic development. For a long time, the heart of this community, especially here in Ironton, was the steel industry. My dad, my Uncle Joe, worked at the Malibu. And when those jobs and the associated industries left, it ripped the heart out of this community. And we've never really found anything to take its place, anything to really substitute for it. So I began to do some research. I began to think about what is it that we can do to get things moving again. And when you look at the critical industries, the fastest growing industries in the country, in fact, in the world in the 21st century, the one that leaps out at you is renewable energy. And I've talked a lot about this, and many of you have heard me talk about this, but it's the fastest growing industry in America, 9 times faster than the overall economy. A lot of people don't realize there are now 5 times as many solar workers as there are coal miners in America. And it's the example of the kind of thing that we can attract, and I've been working on a plan to do just that, to attract those kind of jobs that can kickstart a revolution that can really start to transform the economy of Lawrence County. But that's not the only thing. We need to modernize our infrastructure, and this is true across the country. It's not just roads and bridges, where we've seen some progress, but even there's a lot more left to be done. It's our water systems, our sewer systems, because nobody in the 21st century, no American, should be denied the right to have a clean drink of water. And we've seen that across the country. We have problems like that here. But it's also the high-tech infrastructure that businesses, that people are going to need in the 21st century to get ahead. There's a digital divide. We need to make sure that high-speed broadband internet access is available for rich and poor alike. That everybody has access so kids can do their homework and rise as far as their talent will take them. So that small and medium-sized businesses can get access to customer bases across the country and around the world, because that's where the world's headed. And those are the kind of things we need to emphasize to get our economy growing again. We also, and this is my real passion, I wanted to try to find a way that we could really get our school systems, and I love our school systems in this county. It's what I've spent my entire life doing, to get them to work together to prepare our students to be ready on the first day of the first grade and ready for the first day of college. Is there a way to pool our resources? And I began to look for models, and I found one not far from here in Cincinnati in a program called Strive Together, where public officials had worked with private sector folks and civic organizations, and Cincinnati, pooling and marshaling their resources, was able to become the first big city in America to provide universal pre-K for their students. Think how that could transform the lives of our families, of our young people here in Lawrence County, if we can bring that model here. And the third thing we've got to do is fight the opioid epidemic, which is eating at the heart of this community. I've seen it firsthand as a teacher and a coach. Interestingly, the model that Strive Together has put together is perfect for that, and Judge Ballard is doing much of that with his drug court, using all the resources of the community, the courts and law enforcement, but also the medical community, rehab services, job training, transportation, all to create a web that can help resurrect people and save lives. And that's the kind of model I want to bring to county government. That's the kind of thing I want to do. We need to elect a new era of leadership that can take these kinds of models, bring them here, adjust to our own local strengths and circumstances, and improve the lives of people in Lawrence County. And I think the County Commission has a really vital role in all that, because we're the only people who are elected by everybody in the county with a really broad mission that can mobilize those resources, and I want to try to do that. To coordinate, to marshal those resources, to solve the problems that everyday people have here in Lawrence County. We can't just leave it to the private sector. Government has to have a role in this.
Thank you.
And I want to try
That's
to do
your
that.
5.
Good evening. I'm Freddie Hayes Jr. I'm your current county commissioner and have been for the last 7 years. I also want to thank Scott and the Ironton Tribune for having this. This is a great thing. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 45 years old. I'm a graduate of Sims Valley High School. I'm very proud of it, a Viking. My family, I am the son of the late Fred Hayes, who was killed in an accident about 6 years ago. My mother, which is sitting out here, Patty Hayes. I got 2 beautiful daughters, which are here, Kayla, Miranda, which I'm very proud of. They actually run the Cold Grove Freezette in here. You know, I was taught to be a worker. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a worker for the people. That's what I do this job for. I'm very blessed to be able, it's not about the paycheck, it's about the people. I graduated high school and started working. I bought Monty's Pizza over in Huntington. Started working, worked 80 hours a week to make that go. And I told my dad, I said, I'd like to give back. I said, you know, I'm blessed to get to do what I want, and I'd like to give back to the people. So I started on the Lawrence Water Board when I was 20 years old. I run for the Lawrence Water Board, got on the Lawrence Water Board. After a couple of years, I became president of the Lawrence Water Board. After about a year and a half, they asked me to be the manager of Lawrence Water, which I did for 15 years and was very successful at it. Talking about water, we got a lot of people water out in the rural areas. We worked together. We got people to dig lines. We went out there. Our people worked. We got a lot of people that didn't have water. Then I also wanted to be a part of the fair board. You know, I think the kids are the most important people in this county, the kids and the seniors. Everybody knows that about me. I started on the fair board. I spent 10 years as a fair board member. And then my good friend, which was president, was Mr. Doug Clark. He asked me if I would take president, because he was on his deathbed, is where he was at. And he asked me, he said, when something happens to me, I want you to take president. Well, I did this, and I was able to get the youth a new barn up there, a $500,000 barn. And I've always been a part of the fair. I'm there every year, where I'm running or not, to help the kids buy their animals. I think that's important. Them projects are important. I also am very proud of my last 7 years as commissioner. We've had a positive budget. We've never been in the red. My dad taught me that. You take care of the money, everything else will take care of itself, and he's exactly right. And that's something we do. Very conservative. I'm proud of the team I'm a part of. I think the office holders in this county are a better team than they've ever been. We all get along. And everybody knows me. I'm a registered Republican, but I support everybody. I work for all Lawrence County. We all do. We can talk about one party or the other, but we represent everybody here. You're the ones that put us in here. And I've been proven to that. You know, I've hired as many Democrats as I have Republicans. Got as many Democrat friends as I do Republicans, and I'm proud of that. And I think that's the way this whole country would work a lot better if everybody got along. There's some issues that, you know, that we have worked on. One is the jail. The last 7 years, I want to clarify something too. I have never been for a tax levy for the jail, nor will I ever be. So all these ads you're looking at with my name with the X thumb that says he's for tax, no. And also I want to clarify the EMS tax levy real quick. It's, you know, our job is to put that on the ballot for the people. And all 3 commissioners vote to put that on the ballot. But the people decided. Now, was I for the EMS levy? Absolutely. and I'll tell you the reason why. One is I don't want a senior to call and not have an ambulance to come. I don't want a kid to call that's drowned in the, or a parent to call that a kid's drowned in the pool, that they need an EMS out there to save their life. I want that to happen. And everybody knows I'm a real estate developer in the county, and I own a lot of property. An EMS levy probably costs me $15,000 a year, but I'm not afraid to pay it. Like I say, I do this for the people, not the paycheck. And I'm very passionate about what I do, and I want to continue to be your county commissioner. I'm available anytime. Still got 3 or 4 businesses, but people run them for me, and I give my daughters a free zet, so I've got all the time in the world to concentrate on this. And like I say, I want to stay county commissioner. I appreciate your support.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donald Capper. I'm a candidate for Common Pleas Judge. I'm named for my father, who was known more by the name of Bud. That's what my mother always called him. My parents, Bud and Opal Capper, were from the Scotttown area. They met at Windsor High School. They both grew up on farms in that area with no running water, indoor plumbing, or electricity until they were teenagers. My brother, Eddie, and I were the first generation in our family to go to college. My brother and I both graduated from Marshall. My brother was 10 years older than me. He was my hero in a lot of ways. He played on the untouchable team for Fairland for Carl York. Those guys were all my heroes, and it was a great joy for me to get to play for Coach York also. I also played for Coach Mayo, played football at Fairland. And my brother passed away about 13 years ago. He was longtime assistant principal at Fairland and principal right before his death. I went to the University of Toledo Law School, and initially after law school I went to Florida and worked there, and then when we had our first child, we decided we wanted to come back here, and I've got 3 children, Jay, Elaine, and Kristen. They were all raised here, and I'm very proud of them. They're doing very well and very successful, married, and have children. I have 6 grandchildren and another one on the way. I chose to live in this area because this is where my family lives. I chose to come back here, and we have problems that we need to face in the legal community. I've been the municipal court judge now for 26 years, and that is the court in Chesapeake. The court that I'm running for is the Common Pleas Court here in Ironton. Judge Cooper is now the sitting judge in that court, and he is retiring. So it's going to be an open seat. It'll be on the ballot this November. I believe I have the experience and the knowledge to step into that position and run the court well. The first job of judge is to decide the cases before them. And I've been a trial judge and a trial court lawyer my whole career, so I've got a lot of jury trial experience. The other big challenge for our community, it's already been mentioned, and for the court system, is the opioid crisis. I'm dealing with it every day in my court. I've put over 200 people in treatment so far this year. I believe in treatment. I want people to go to treatment, and I hope I'll get to address issue 1 with you later, because that's a very significant issue right now that you're going to see on the ballot. And I'm against it. I'll just say that, and I'll explain more why later. But we have to do more on prevention, and we have to do more to get people into successful treatment. One of the things I would want to accomplish on the Common Pleas level is to be more efficient and gather more statistics about what is working in treatment. We have a lot of options right now for treatment, but they're not all the same. And in my court, I have to rely pretty much on what the treatment providers give us as far as information. I'd like to be able to gather statistics and study what works and be more efficient, and therefore get more people into recovery and successfully complete recovery. As a society, I think we have to do more on prevention, because my experience with it is once people get into addiction with The major drugs I'm seeing now are heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. It's very difficult to get them out of that situation. We need to spend more resources on stopping people from getting into it to begin with. But I deal with it after the fact. I don't see them until they're in the problem. And I want to work on that on the common pleas level, and I think I can unify the courts and be more efficient in handling that situation due to my experience. The other thing I want to do is make the courts digital so they're more transparent to the public, and as I said, unify the community service programs that all the courts now have separately. Thank you very much.
One more round of applause also for everyone that is up here, whether you're red or blue, the candidates and the people, they're putting their name and their family and everything that they do in front of the public. That takes a lot. So whatever way you may sway, you have to respect everyone up here. And our area is very lucky because we have great candidates, and that's how this area gets things done. You know, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, to have better candidates out there, that's fantastic. So please, thank you, and applause. First question is going to, for the auditor, and it'll be for Jason Stevens. Jason, explain how the county millage is used in Ohio to arrive at the property tax rates for each county. Can you explain how the county millage is used in Ohio to arrive at the property tax rate for each county?
County millage in Ohio is calculated. Okay. All right. I was just trying to make sure I understood the question. Well, actually, the tax rate, we have 39 different taxing districts in Lawrence County alone. I think in the state of Ohio, there are over 4,000 different taxing districts. And what makes a taxing district is, for example, the city of Ironton is its own taxing district. Windsor Township is a taxing district. Sims Valley is a taxing district, but Sims Valley also incorporates Mason, Ade, Sims Township, of course. So all of these different things kind of overlap. So, even the Rock Hill School District has a few parcels here in town and whatnot. So each taxing entity is separate. So, for example, I think we mentioned the EMS levy was mentioned earlier. The EMS levy was a county-wide ballot initiative so that everybody in the county fell into the taxing district of the county, which the county commissioners are over. However, this year I think there is a ballot initiative, or I'm sorry, a levy, replacement levy that's on the ballot in South Point, and that is just for the village of South Point. So their millages could be a lot different. The village of South Point, if the people in South Point decide to vote for this levy that's coming up, their taxes are going to be higher, or their tax rate will be higher or different than somebody in Fayette Township just a half a mile out Solid Road because they're not in the village. So that's the interesting thing about Ohio is the voters are ultimately the ones who get to decide what the tax rates are. Now, the taxing entities for the county would be the county commissioners. For a school district would be the school board. For the township would be the township trustees. And a municipality would be the council and the mayor. They get to determine what goes before the voters to vote. But ultimately, the voters are the ones who get to decide yes or no. And this year there are the one in South Point, and I think Elizabeth Township has a renewal of their fire levy, and I believe Windsor Township has a renewal of their fire levy as well. And those levies can be different, like the one in Windsor is a renewal. But what we do for that in the auditor's office is we put our tax levy calculator out there on the website so that you can go and look at the parcel before the election, every election, and we set up that parcel so that you can go to the tax tab and click on the levy to see an estimate of how much that levy will cost you for that parcel. So we try to put that out there every election so that people are informed. Sometimes people think a levy is going to go up a bunch, but it may be $1.50. Sometimes they may think it's $1.50, but it may go up significantly. So we try to put those calculations out there so when people do decide and they do go into the voting booth that they can have that information before them. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you. Jason Tolliver, and I'll read it again. Explain how the county millage is used in Ohio to arrive at the property tax rate for each county.
I would have to agree with Jason that he's correct in how it's arrived.
Okay. Next question. This will be for the commissioners. Bob McAllister, question is first for you. What's your plan for Lawrence County as far as bringing new and innovative businesses into the county?
Well, I actually talked quite a bit about that in my opening statement. We are at the cutting edge of a whole series of changes, and one of the things I mentioned, of course, is renewable energy, because in the next 20 to 30 years, we are going to redo our entire energy grid. This is happening around the world. It's going to happen here. What I want us to do is to be at the cutting edge of change rather than a backwater. For once, I want us to be ahead of the curve. And what we need to do is to be able, and I talked about these public-private partnerships, and we've seen this all around Rust Belt communities, which we very much are. The Rust Belt communities were the ones that were so badly affected when the steel industry and the auto industry ran into trouble. And in Rust Belt communities, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in Cincinnati, and places like that, the ones that have actually been able to prosper and done better are the ones that can use all the elements of the county's resources. Mobilize, government organizations mobilize, civic organizations mobilize, the private sector, and work together to build a plan to do just that. So if you're going to talk about renewable energy, you've got to work with utilities. You've got to find a way to bring them to the table. You've got to look at manufacturers. You've got to look at all the different range of things that you can do to create jobs and bring them here. You talk about high-speed broadband internet. I mentioned that. There are some really innovative things going on, but it's going to take government help. In every great revolution in infrastructure that we've had in this country over the last couple hundred years, there's always been a role for government in the building of the railroads, in the growth of radio, in the building of the electrical grid the first time. It was Franklin Roosevelt and the Rural Electrification Act that actually allowed areas like the rural parts of Lawrence County to grow. So we need those kind of public-private partnerships to bring broadband here. There's a bill. House Bill 387 passed. It was actually sponsored by Ryan Smith to encourage high-speed broadband in rural areas, but it's dying. It's now Senate Bill 325, and it's dying in the Ohio Senate. We need to have people who can go to Columbus and can lobby the state and break loose those funds and get those passed. We have to transform this, and it's going to take the work of government, private industry, civic organizations. We're going to have to work together if we're going to transform this economy, and that's what I plan to do.
Okay, Mr. Hayes, what is your plan for Lawrence County as far as bringing new and innovative businesses?
Well, what my plan is the same thing we've been doing. I'm very proud of the hundreds of jobs we've brought in. If anybody's went down through the point and seen all the businesses that's come in there, we've got a great team with the LEDC and Chamber of Commerce. We acquired the Dow Chemical property down here. We've got things moving into it. You know, I'm very proud, and talking about going to Columbus and Washington, that's something that we've done. You got to make contacts. You got to go up there. You know, this is the first time me and Miss Holliday, we got to go to Washington, D.C., and we have really been recognized since then. We've made some good contacts, talked to some good people, and I think that's what it takes. But as far as bringing more businesses in, you know, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. Bill Dingus up there, he's great with the chamber and the LEDC, and We've worked good with him, and of course, I come from a business background. I've run multiple businesses, you know, and small businesses. That's the thing of the future too. We want to try to get all the small businesses. I want to try to see some of the mom and pops back. You know, I used to like going in the old country stores and getting the bologna and cheese sandwich. I mean, we want to take care of the small people. It's not all about the big people. Everybody wants to talk about the big people. It's the small people also. We want to try to help them in any way we can. And I come from that. I mean, my family's run a lot of small businesses, and it's hard work, but it makes a great person out of you. And I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And like I said, I'm very proud of where we're at. Hundreds of jobs have been created in the last 7 years since I've been there. And we got a great team working on it, great team of commissioners. And like I say, the LEDC and the Chamber of Commerce too. So I'm very proud of what we're doing. We're going to keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Capper, what is your view or opinion on State Issue 1, which is the Drug and Criminal Justice Policies Initiative?
Well, I asked for that question, and I'm glad I got it. I have a very strong opinion on it, and I think it's the most important thing on the ballot by far. I think my race is important, and everyone here, all the candidates think their race is important, but this Issue 1 affects the entire state, just not our county. And in my opinion, if Issue 1 passes, it's going to make the drug problem much worse. And here's the reason. It's going to reclassify possession of drugs that are now felonies, like the most serious ones that I mentioned previously: fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin. Those will all be misdemeanors. But not only will they be misdemeanors, which means they will be in the courts where I am right now. I'm a municipal court judge. There's 2 in our county, one in Ironton, one in Chesapeake. So Judge Waldo or I will have all those possession cases. And not only that, but by constitutional amendment, which is what this is, it will prohibit us from putting that person in jail until they fail treatment the 3rd time within 2 years. Think of that. If you have a few glasses of wine and are driving down the road and get pulled over and you test above 1.7 on your blood alcohol, the legislature says, I have to put you in jail on a first offense for 3 days. That's the minimum. I have to do that. But if you get pulled over after this passes and you have heroin in your car, I will be prohibited by the Constitution of putting you in jail. It makes no sense. And here's the other thing. I deal with, as I said before, I deal with a lot of people in recovery, and I require people to go to recovery. I want them to get clean and sober, and I'm cheering for them. I want it for them. Usually their family wants it for them. But guess what? The big problem is a lot of times they don't want it that bad. That's the biggest problem I see, is motivation of the addict. And sometimes you need negative motivation, just like with your kids. You need carrots and sticks. Well, if some people get clean because they're afraid of going to jail, I'm fine with that. But if you tell the people that I'm seeing in court now, my opinion is if they know they've got 3 bites at the apple before they can ever go to jail for failure, guess what? Most of them are going to take all 3 bites. And in the end, some of them are going to overdose and die. The death rate will go up, in my opinion, if Issue 1 passes. Vote no on Issue 1.
Thank you. Jason Tolliver, your question. How do you feel the auditor's office can improve the effectiveness and transparency of government in Lawrence County?
With improving effectiveness, there's entities out there that we can partner with that will allow us to pay our bills in 30 days, but we'll actually have 60 days before we have to write a check to pay the businesses that we do business with in Lawrence County. I think that's one way. Transparency, just an open door, open book policy, and open to the public.
One of the things that makes makes local government a little more accessible than what it used to be is the internet. The internet has given the ability to be able to, go online at any time of the day and be able to access information. So over the last few years, we've really worked hard to improve the access to the information that you have here in Lawrence County when it comes to information from county government. When I first took office as county auditor, I remember obviously serving as a county commissioner, there was always a question about what is the budget, where is the budget, and one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did is put the expense report out there on the internet every month, and we do that, and we put the revenues and the revenue source and the cash position of every fund in the county, and you can go on to lawrencecountyauditor.org. Sorry, I'm nervous. lawrencecountyauditor.org. And you can check out every month since 2011, I think, or 2012. We took 2011 off because there was too many months on there. But anyway, it's about being open with the information that is there. Now, doing the analysis and whatnot, people are free to do that their own selves. The other thing that we do is we also have the property information out there. So anybody that wants to see the information about the property that's being bought and sold, you can actually run reports. If you are interested in property in a particular school district or a particular township or a particular village, you can actually download that report and see every property that's been sold this year, what it sold for, what we had it on the books for versus what it sold for, who bought it, who sold it. Unless it's ODOT, they don't put their information out there. But anyway, that's an exempt sale. So we put that information out there. We also have the mapping where we partner with the engineer's office to try to get the maps out there, and so you can see that information at any time. So being open and having that information available, and I would like to see us improve that. And we've improved that over the years with adding the flood maps and different maps to the auditor's website to give that information to people so that they can look at it and decide for themselves what they think is going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes? The need for a new county jail cannot be understated. It's a tremendous cost to the county and could potentially lead to further financial hardships if real solutions are not employed. What is your specific plan to fix the jail?
All righty, like I said in my opening speech here, I've spent the last 7 years trying to solve this problem. I voted numerous times when we had the Franklin Furnace facility down there to move it down there, but was never given the money to do so. My plan is to do it without putting the tax levy on, and it's something that's going to take some time. We got a $25 million jail that we got to build, which I don't see any problem in securing the funds to get that done. But we also have an issue with staffing this jail, with the operations. We have trouble now funding what we have down here in Ironton. And I've talked to the sheriff, and if the sheriff was here, he would agree with me. It's not all about building it, it's about funding it. But what we have done, of course, we have a committee that we're working on, and we have found some property, a couple pieces that we may be interested in trying to get a jail on. Of course, we're going to have to secure the funding, and I don't want to do a property tax for that. Absolutely no way. I've never said that. Nobody's ever heard me say that, and I will not do that. But it's going to take some time. It's not an overnight thing, Everybody's got a plan, and they're going to come in here and they're going to do something overnight. And in business, you can. I can do that. There's things I can do overnight in my businesses. But I'm going to tell you something, in government, it's been a different for me. You can't just do that. It takes time. It takes years to get it done. And of course, I think it's 2,329 days I've been in here, Bob, that I've not got it done. Is that right? Well, anyway, it's 2,329, I think. But it's 2,329 days that I saved you from a tax levy. That's what it is. And let me tell you something. Ain't nobody going to work any harder at this job or on that jail. And I have. We've worked hard. We've hit bumps. We didn't get the money. And then there come up an issue at the end to pay the $64,000 worth of bills down there that I've been criticized about. The reason I didn't pay the $64,000 worth of bills, we never stepped foot in that place. We wasn't going to get that place. There's no use wasting taxpayers' money to pay that bill. Even the state said, we've never been there. We never got the chance to go there. So I'm not going to write a check from Lawrence County for $64,000 that we wasn't even there. And so that's one of the things I got criticized. But we're going to keep doing what we're doing. Like I said, we got a great team. Of course, all the judges are on board. I mean, they know we got the problem. We're going to try to fix this. But I'm going to be conservative with your money. I'm not going to put, Scioto County got in physical trouble over that. Freddie Hayes is not going to be a part of that. I do not want to go in the red, nor will I ever. So you don't have to worry about a tax levy. We're just going to have to keep working on it the best we can. And I don't care who gets in here, it's not an overnight fix. It's going to take a few more years. I mean, it is. But we have got
Thank you.
things
It's time.
in the way.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's fine.
The jail has been a festering problem. This has gone on for years now. For at least 4 years, we've known that this is a problem and that we have to deal with this. The state, the Kasich administration, Republican administration, moved heaven and earth in the Scioto County line in order to give us access to the facility in Franklin Furnace. I believe we advanced about $500,000 for the transition. In the end, we signed a lease, and we lost the rights to that lease. We lost the lease because we failed to pay a $64,000 utility bill. And because of that, we lost the rights to what could be an $11 million asset for this county. We could have had a jail without a tax levy, without a tax increase for the taxpayers. And I think what happened in the end, and I'm not sure, I don't think I fully understand exactly why the decision was made the way it was made. In the end, I think we worst case scenarioed the costs of moving to the new jail. And best case scenario, our ability to find a way to build a new jail instead of the facility in Franklin Furnace. And I just think that was a horrendous mistake. And I don't want the taxpayers of Lawrence County to pay for that mistake. So what do? Well, the first thing I think we need to do is we need to get right with the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and with the Star Community Justice Center. We need to pay that bill. We need to pay that $64,000 bill and get right with them. And then we need to work with the new administration in Columbus, and I hope, just as a Democrat, that it's a Cordray administration, because Richard Cordray talked to him the other day, and he is determined to make sure that we restore funding to local governments. And I think if we do that, we can get a second bite at the apple. We can go to them, we can go to the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, and there's still a chance that we could have that facility, a state-of-the-art facility. The staffing problems are manageable. We can work that out. And we can save, potentially, the taxpayers of Lawrence County tens of millions of dollars to build a new jail when we have a perfectly viable alternative just down the road.
Thank you. Judge Capper, what changes would you bring in your approach to the addiction epidemic facing the region?
One of the things I think we need to do is be more cooperative in terms of the courts. We have 3 criminal courts in our county: Ironton Municipal Court, Lawrence County Municipal Court, and the Common Pleas Court. They all are facing the opioid crisis. My court, and people don't realize it, most people don't, is the largest court in the county. The court in Chesapeake has 2/3 of the cases. If you look at any year, the number of cases in this county, 2/3 of them are in that court in Chesapeake, because 2/3 of the population is in the eastern 7 townships now. So that makes sense. That's where the cases originate. We have 9 probation officers in this county. The court in Chesapeake has 1 probation officer. It's a part-time court. I'm a part-time judge. It's staffed as a part-time court. That needs to be fixed. And one of the things I proposed is merging all the probation departments. A lot of the folks that are on probation in my court in Chesapeake are also on probation with Judge Waldo or with Judge Ballard or Judge Cooper. Up until recently, those courts did not share much information. They all had separate software programs. We're now getting on the same software program. I proposed that, and that's happening right now. And there's more things like that we can do. There's a court, a county in Ohio now that has one common drug court for the whole county. And I think that's something we should look into here. As I said, in my court, I've put over 200 people in treatment this year. 200. It's a staggering number. And just accommodating them in a certified drug court would be very difficult because of the staffing. So to do that, we need to be more efficient. We have to have those numbers shared because you can't do that with one probation officer. I'm using now basically the addiction counseling agencies as my probation officers. I rely on the reports they give me to verify how successful people are in treatment. I rely on them to tell me when people fail in treatment. So from the common police court down, I think in that position, if I go there, then I can do some things to fix the problems in that court, help that court out, and unify the courts and share more information and take this epidemic on head on. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Stevens, what skills differentiate you from your opponent?
I'd like to, is it on? There we go. What skills differentiate me from my opponent? I tell you what, I'm going to stay positive on that. I went through a lot of my qualifications in the opening. We've worked hard. One of the things that I like to try to do is to work well with others. I think it's important. One of the things that I try to do, or I tell our office that we try to do in the auditor's office, because every day we are dealing with a lot of different government entities here in Lawrence County, school boards, townships, and villages, whatever, or the city, is let's try to make other people look better. If we make them look good, then we are doing our job, because we are there to give information, to give, to make sure that they're doing their math right. Sometimes we just act as a double check on the math, and then that's an important part of what we do. And I think that experience is really important. I've served with several different people over the years as office holders there in Lawrence County. A lot of them I really grew to love. Both parties. We got along really well, and that part of it, of getting along with those and getting along with the other elected officials throughout the county, whether it's a township, a small township, a big school district, a small school district, it really doesn't matter. We want to be able to treat people well, and to make sure that we are treating people with respect. And their problem, if they're calling up and calling the auditor's office, it's a real issue. And we need to do our best to get them the right information and get it in a way that can help explain it to people so that they look good, for lack of a better way of saying it. So that's really what I like to do, is use our experience to give people the information they need, and hopefully that will help them to make better decisions. Sometimes they make decisions that I go, okay, if that's what they want, that's what we'll do, but not necessarily always. But nevertheless, that's what I like to do, is to give people information, give them the freedom, or they have the freedom, but give them that information that gives them the freedom to make the decisions that they feel is in their best interest.
Thank you. Mr. Tolliver?
Jason may take this as a negative, but I think probably the biggest difference is I think you're older than me, aren't you? I don't know Jason well enough to compare notes of a background with myself. The best I can do is tell you that with my business background, I am very well versed in budgeting, forecasting budgets, and the projects that we develop and build, making sure they come in on time and under budget. Given what I have to do in my daily job, I've become well-rounded in accounting, budgeting. Don't want to take anything away from Don, but a little bit of legal. And for the most part, I run an adult daycare center. So I have a lot of people skills that I think would fit well into the auditor's office. But other than that, I don't know Jason well enough to compare notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now might be a good time to remind everyone, the questions came in to a couple of different ways. They could send them in Facebook, Twitter, or into the Ironton Tribune, and then when people were walking in today, they could write them down. So that's where all the questions have been coming up. I'm not just sort of making them up as I go along. So, and also I think everybody can agree that math is hard. So I think that's so far the summary that we have going currently. So next question will be for Bob McAllister. It's a little long.
Okay.
The Wayne National Forest is a major Lawrence County asset. The forest is currently undergoing a 10-year plan revision which sets the goals and objectives for the forest for the next 10 years. The planning process is lengthy and involves participation of area citizens and local officials. How would you participate in that planning process?
Interestingly enough, I already am. I'm actually on the working group. First of all, the Lawrence County Working Group. I'm actually part of two different working groups, the Lawrence County Working Group, and I went to a meeting of the working group in Jackson about 2 weeks ago on bringing renewable energy into the Wayne National Forest and on air and water quality. So I'm actually already part of that process. I think the Wayne National Forest is one of our greatest assets here in Lawrence County. It has tremendous potential for all kinds of economic development. First of all, for tourism, for ecotourism, for a whole series of things. But it's a tremendous asset. There are places in Wayne National County, and we've already started to talk about it. I've worked with a professor at OU, and she's on the planning committee as well. And places and sites that we may be able to use to bring renewable energy, particularly solar. There's not a lot of wind potential here in Lawrence County, but we do have more solar potential than any county in Ohio because we're the southernmost county in Ohio. And Wayne National Forest is one of the places where that's a possibility, a way that we can start to build real economic development into this county and use that resource. Because one of the things that renewable, especially solar, requires is land. And we have a lot of that in the Wayne National Forest. So I'm actually already part of that process. I'm also, that working group is also looking at air and water quality. We are about to get a lot of development in the natural gas industry. We've already had one pipeline pass through. We've got another one, the Buckeye Express, is on the way. And we need to make sure that as government officials, that we are making sure that the highest possible safety standards are in place for those pipelines as they come through and for any natural gas facility that happens to be put in this area, and it's going to go through Wayne National Forest. I've actually seen the route of the pipeline. And so I'm actually already part of that process, and I think using the Wayne is one of the things that we can do to encourage economic development in this county. So I'm glad to be a part of that already.
Thank you. Would you like me to read the question
I'm
again?
fine.
Okay.
Over the last 7 years, we have got to work, or I have, and the commissioners have got to work with the Wayne National Forest. I'm very passionate about the Wayne National Forest. Of course, I've been a big supporter of the horse camp out there. I think that's great for tourism. They have a lot of people coming in and out. Of course, both my daughters are barrel racers and horse riders, so we take that very serious. And I also think the Wayne National Forest is very important for the economical growth. Also, it's a good place for I enjoy going out there. I go out there a lot. It's a good place to hike and enjoy the outside, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. But, you know, we're going to continue to work in any way we can help them. And I think we've done a good job so far with them. We've got a great relationship. We've built a great relationship with the Wayne National Forest. And like I said, the horse camp out there, I'm a big supporter of that. She's worked hard on that, her and her husband. And they've got some nice trails out there and going to continue to add some trails. So, of course, I'm 100% in support of the National Forest. So.
Thank you. Judge Capper, how do you balance being an independent judge as well as an elected official?
Well, judges have a different role than other elected officials, and I actually brought with me the Judicial Canons of Ethics, and it specifically talks about that, because as these other elected officials, they can have very partisan views, and they're allowed to do that and make their decisions off of that. A judge is supposed to make a decision on a case based on the law and the evidence and nothing else. So being an elected official, you have to run for office and you have to put yourself out there, but you will notice when you go in on November the 6th and see the judges' races, there's no parties listed there, and that's for a reason. Judges are nonpartisan. They're supposed to be nonpartisan. And that's because everybody has to go to court. And when you come into that courtroom, you don't want to be sitting up there thinking, well, I'm opposite party of the judge, or my lawyer's the opposite party of the judge. Is he holding that against me, or she holding that against me? That is why judicial races are nonpartisan, and judges are under totally different rules in conducting their campaigns than other partisan races. So it is a balancing act to be out there and to seek votes, but to be nonpartisan. And that's the way we do it in the state of Ohio. And if you want more information about it, I've got the Code of Judicial Conduct right here. But I don't think anybody wants me to read that to them, but I can. It specifically says judges are to be nonpartisan. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Tolliver. Can you explain the value or lack thereof of accountability and accessibility to the public in local government, and what you would specifically do to increase transparency?
Could you repeat that question one more time?
I don't know if I can. Can you explain the value or lack thereof of accountability and accessibility to the public in local government, and what specifically would you do to increase transparency to the public?
As far as accountability goes, I think we probably, to get myself included if elected, get ourselves out there to the public in some manner where it's more frequent meetings, to where we're doing something to get the public to interact with us, so there is some accountability. As far as transparency, again, an open door and open book policy, I believe, is the best scenario, that anyone at any time can come in and ask questions. But that's probably the best way I can think of to improve transparency.
Thank you.
One of the things that I think is important, and I mentioned this earlier, is the fact that as technology improves, this is 2018, we have a lot better technology than we did even 10 years ago in 2008. I think it's important to take advantage of these technologies in order to make that transparency happen better. And, as we move forward, there are going to be different changes in technology that we haven't even thought of. I kind of laugh sometimes as I think about, auditors in the past, what they would have thought of our website, or what they would have thought of the technology that is used to do the analysis on different things that come through our office. So I think it's really important to always be looking forward and looking ahead. Also, I think it's important to be staying active, even from the auditor standpoint, is staying active in Columbus. And one of the things that I have served on for the past few years is the County Auditors Association, where all 88 county auditors come together, and it's on the legislative committee. And we are able to, get updates of what is going on whenever a bill that comes by, down the pipe that may be not for the best interest of local government. We try to get in there and let our legislators know and be on the forefront of those things. But anyway, that is, I think, is important, is always being proactive, and being proactive as far as what we do from a technology standpoint, what we do from a legislative standpoint. And I think I've got a few more seconds. I would like to talk about issue 1 real quickly, just to reiterate what Judge Capper said. I'll make it a lot simpler. Just vote no. As we start looking at the cost of such a thing, it is just not for Lawrence County, and we just can't afford to allow that to the good name, or the name of the bill to pass. So I just encourage everybody to make sure they turn the ballot over, by the way, because that issue is on the back of the ballot. So anyway, I think I answered 2 or 3 questions in one. So
That's okay. You have the time. Thank you.
right.
Mr. Hayes, what steps have you or do you plan to do to bring broadband internet access as well as cell phone coverage to the more rural parts of the county?
Well, that's another thing that we have worked on over the past few years. We've reached out and tried to get some of that done, and we are becoming successful with accomplishing some of that. We've got some new tires going up and stuff like that. We're just going to continue to do what we're doing. That is something that's definitely needed. I got a couple friends that live out where they don't have any way to get anything like that, and they stay very upset at me. But it's something, it's just kind of like the water. It's a thing that takes time to get. It's another government thing that takes time to get accomplished. And it's something we've been working on, and it's something we're going to continue to work on.
Thank you.
I talked a little bit about this earlier, but I think this is actually vital. There is this digital divide in America where there are people who lack the access to high-speed broadband internet, and in rural parts of the United States, it's a particular problem, especially high-speed access. I was actually talking to this really impressive farming couple that lives out in Sims Valley a few months ago, and they're really innovative, and they sell farm products on the internet, and they sell them around the world. And she told me she has to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning in order to get enough broadband access, enough bandwidth in order to be able to do that. Well, that's the kind of problem that you run into. This is going to be a superhighway in the 21st century that business has to have. Our students have to have it. I was always shocked when I talked to my students about homework assignments and doing research, how few of them had access to high-speed internet in our school district. So this is a serious problem. It's a problem for students. We don't want poor kids to get left behind. We don't want our small businesses and medium-sized businesses to get left behind. We want them to have access to markets all around the country, all around the world. That can create real economic growth. So this is something we have to do. And I said this earlier, but this is worth saying again. Every great infrastructure improvement in this country's history wasn't driven solely by the private sector. There was a huge government role involved. The building of the railroads in the 19th century, the building of radio in the early 20th century was a Wilson-era initiative. He actually helped create RCA. The best example is FDR. An awful lot of places in Lawrence County would not have gotten electrical access to the grid if it had not been for the New Deal, because the Rural Electrification Act allowed that to go into areas where the market just didn't make sense for private companies to extend that. There has to be a government role, all the way through Eisenhower and the National Defense Highway Act to build the current interstate system. There's a role for this. There's a bill in the Ohio legislature. It passed the House. I believe it was House Bill 375. Passed the House, and it is basically dead in the United States Senate. It's now called Senate Bill 225, and it's dead. That would have extended high-speed broadband to this area. We need to change that. This is important. This is part of the infrastructure that will drive economic growth in this century. We need people who can go to Columbus, who can make our case. We need to get everybody, every commissioner, every official from every rural county in southern and eastern Ohio to go to Columbus and demand that this happens. And I'll do that.
Thank you. Judge Clapper, is it probable that the lack of adequate jail space or costs would ever lead to releasing people who should not be released or given probation?
Well, I don't agree with the last thing. It is a consideration right now, because I think we all know there's jail overcrowding. And when I'm sitting there as a judge, that's probably not something people can see, but I'm making a calculation in my mind. I'm also sometimes considering the jail space available. I have conversations with the sheriff, and I have a good relationship with him, and sometimes he'll ask me to release some people. And I'll go through the jail list and look and see if there's someone that I can release. The legislature mandates some sentences. On the operating vehicle intoxicated, there's mandatory penalties that I have to impose. So those people I can't let out. There's other types of charges where there's mandatory penalties. So I would say we make adjustments. Oftentimes there's health issues. The county is very sensitive to this. The amount that we are spending on prisoner medical expenses is astronomical. So I get a call quite often from the jailer, maybe the sheriff, saying, we've got John Doe in the jail and he's got this very serious medical problem. Can you do something like an ankle monitor or shorten their jail sentence? Because if they have this problem while they're in jail, guess what, folks? You're paying for the medical bill for them. So there's a lot of considerations that go into who to put in jail, when to put them in jail, when to release them from jail. And jail overcrowding, unfortunately, is one of those. I'd like to say that we are now considering some options, and the judges are now being brought in on that. My opinion was never asked too often in the past about the jail overcrowding, even though I'm one of the people using the jail. Just recently, we've been having meetings about that, and our input is being considered, and I think it's very important for the judges to have input on solving this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that I had mentioned that for the final comments, everybody'd have 3 minutes, but we're doing quite well in time, so I'm going to give everyone 4 minutes. And we're going to start with Judge Capper.
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank the Tribune for hosting this, and I want to thank the other candidates for coming out. You know, it's not easy. You know, I do public speaking all the time. I'm a trial judge. I've been a trial lawyer for a long time, so public speaking comes a little easier to me, but I still get nervous. And I know that for people that don't do this on a regular basis, it's a little traumatic to have to sit in front of a bunch of strangers and answer questions that you don't know are coming. And I'm doing door-to-door too. And when you go knock on somebody's door, usually they don't have a question already prepared for you. Here, people have sat and thought about questions, and you get a tough question, you got to answer it in front of everybody, so it exposes whether you have knowledge or don't have knowledge. And I think that's very important. For a democracy to function, we require and rely upon an informed citizenry. People have to know, for this type of government to function, people have to know the people that are working for them. They're public servants. This is like a job interview. I'm sitting for a job interview, and I am answering your questions as my employer. So I want you to consider that and consider these other candidates and in making your decision. It should be a decision about who is going to do the best job, who is going to be the most qualified. And what I would also like to say to you, I have a track record. I've been a judge for a long time. And if you haven't been in front of me, talk to somebody that has. Or talk to a lawyer that's a friend of yours and ask them how I have conducted that court. I will tell you this. When I came into office, it was because the previous judge had been killed in a car wreck. And he was not of the same party as me. A lot of folks wanted me to fire all the people. There was about 14 employees. They wanted me to fire those folks and put people of a different party in there, and I refused to do that. I don't even ask people what their party is when I hire them. I have people that I just hired and was talking to them about their political affiliation, and I thought they were one party and they were the other. You know what? It's not important to me as a judge. I want people that are going to do the job, and that's what I look for, and that's the way I'm going to conduct the court if you choose to elect me. I will be totally nonpartisan. You can come in and trust that your case is not going to be decided based on some political decision, based on who has the most influence, based on who knows me. If I feel like I know someone too well, the remedy that I should impose, I will recuse myself and ask the Ohio Supreme Court to appoint a visiting judge. That's what an ethical judge does. You have to be free of all those influences when you make a decision, and I promise you I will do that. If that's what you want, then I'm your guy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes?
Well, I agree with Don. When I started 7 years ago, the first time I come down here, I was sweating and everything else. I only said a few words every time, but I've kind of come a long way on that. I've teach myself that you got to get out here and let the people know who you are. And like I said, I'm very passionate about my job. I think I've done a good job. I do it for the people. I really do. It's a way for me to give back, and I'm going to continue giving back. Like I said before, I'm not the guy that shows up at the fair the year before we're going to run. I'm the guy that's there every year. I'm not the guy that goes to the seniors when I'm running. I'm the guy that's there every week helping them. I'm very passionate about the seniors. I'm very passionate about our veterans. I never forget to talk about our veterans anywhere we're at. That's our freedom, and I appreciate anyone who served, and I always try to recognize them. You know, we got a lot of issues, and we're going to continue to have that. That's the reason there's a job here for me. You're never going to get them all solved. That's what they put us here for, to work on it, and that's what I do. And I promise you, there's nobody got any more work ethic than me. I was raised on the Huntington Market produce terminal over there. Went to work every morning at 3 o'clock and was still standing there with my dad at 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week for a long time. And it taught me a lot. If you're going to get anything done, you got to keep working at it. And I promise you, anybody knows me knows that I'm a worker, and I'm going to continue to do that. And we're going to solve these issues. I mean, we've got the jail, like I said, it's a tough issue. But we are definitely going to work on it. We're going to get it done. And I promise you, if you continue to support me, we're going to be I'm a positive person. I believe positive is progress, negative is nowhere. That's how I feel about it. So we're going to continue a positive job here. We got a great team. The commissioners, we get along good. Miss Holliday joined the team there. We all get along great. And like I said, it's not about Republican. It's not about Democrat. It's about Lawrence County. My party's the Lawrence County party. That's everybody. And you know, everybody knows me. I'm not afraid to admit that. But anyway, I'd like to have your continued support, and I guarantee I'll continue to make you proud. I'd like to have your support on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Scott and the Ironton Tribune for hosting this event. I began by talking about my goals for the county if I'm elected. I have one other goal, one other thing I want to mention very quickly. I actually also want to change the way politics is done here in Lawrence County. As I've gone out in the county and talked to people, gone door to door almost from one end of the county to the other, there is a perception in the county among average folks that for too long, politics in Lawrence County has been controlled by a small set of elites, kind of an old boy network. And that too much of what happens in politics in our county is about personal rivalries and score settling and those kind of things. I think that paints things with too broad a brush, but you need to understand that that is a perception out there. I think there are plenty of people who go to the courthouse every day and work really hard to make this place better. I think the principal problem we have is that we've elected people with a limited vision for where the county needs to go, with what will help our county progress into the future. You know, Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people die. And I think what we need is a new era of leadership, a new perspective, a new vision. I think Deanna Holliday's election in 2016 was perhaps a first step in that direction. I want to be a part of that change. I do want to bring a new kind of politics where everybody's voices are heard, rich and poor alike, black and white, where nobody's left behind. And not only are their voices heard, but their needs are addressed. And that we build an inclusive, open, transparent kind of politics in Lawrence County. So I've been running a populist campaign. I've gone door to door. From one end of the county, I've worked my way through Chesapeake. I'll be in Proctorville in the next few days. And that's where I'll end up. And I've talked to people face to face. I've heard their concerns, listened to their problems. This has never been a long-held goal for me. This is a campaign that I embarked on to try to make the lives of the people of this county better. So if you honor me with your vote on November the 6th, I promise I will do my best to accomplish all the things I've set out, and I've set some lofty goals for myself. But I'll make you this promise. If I don't make substantial progress toward the things I want to do, I will not run for re-election. It'll be somebody else's turn to take a shot at this. This is something I want to do to make the lives of the people of Lawrence County better, because for me, this election is not about me. It's about you, it's about your families, it's about our future. It's about Lawrence County. This is my home. I want to thank you all for coming and listening, and if you'll honor me with your vote, I'll do my best to bring change to Lawrence County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens?
I'd like to thank the Tribune and all of the media that are covering this event for having this forum. Appreciate the opportunity to take the questions. I'd like to close by just reiterating that the auditor's role is administrative. Like a mirror, the county auditor should reflect the will of the voters, the will of the other office holders, and the other taxing authorities throughout the county, whether I personally agree with those decisions or not. I believe that the auditor should have financial experience, should know how government works, should give back to the community, should participate in the community by voting in every election. The auditor should work well with others. The auditor should be reliable and even-tempered. The auditor should be qualified to do the job. The bottom line, I believe the auditor needs to know what the job is and what the job isn't. I have the financial experience. I know how local government works. I volunteer to help strengthen our community. I vote in every election. I work with others to make things better. I am reliable and even-tempered. I am qualified to do the job. The bottom line, I know what the job is, and I know what the job isn't. I have run a positive campaign that focuses on my background and my qualifications and the improvements that I have made in my term as county auditor. I will continue to work hard for you, and I will do my best to make sure the auditor's office is run in a professional, efficient, and customer-friendly manner. My name is Jason Stevens. I'm Lawrence County Auditor. I would appreciate your vote this fall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for this opportunity. As Don and Freddie mentioned, this isn't easy getting up here. And it seems like we've been doing this forever now, I do believe, guys, doesn't it? But we're getting close to the end. And one thing that I believe all of us agree on, we believe it or not, we do. We've been with each other for quite a few months now, and we do intermingle and talk to each other. But I believe one thing that all of us do agree on is no on issue one. To echo that just one more time, that is a huge issue that needs to be voted down. I think with my background, my history, I think I'm well suited and qualified to perform the duties of the auditor's office. And with your help on November 6th, we'll accomplish that. I'm Jason Tolliver, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple final thoughts. First, thank you so much for attending. Sitting up here and asking questions, it's not easy. When I was little, people would come, you'd have aunts and uncles coming to your door, and they'd stop in, right, and the door was open and stuff like that. But now, it must be very hard when you're going door to door, because if I hear a knock, the first thing I'm like, who is that? Like, and I'm like, why didn't they text me or Facebook me or Twitter me or whatever? You're like, am I, so nowadays you're like, am I going to jail? Are the police out there? What's going on? So when you go door to door, that must be impossible nowadays, more so like when I was growing up, people just stop by and all of a sudden, an aunt would bring chili and stuff. But now, even myself, I hear a knock and I'm like, I didn't order pizza. You know what I mean? It's got to be, so hats off to all of you for doing that and going door to door, because I think we're in a little different era. So thank you. I thank everybody that showed up. Armstrong, it's going to be shown on Armstrong. It's going to be on OU on their website. It's going to be on the Ironton Tribune website, so that more and more people that can't make it will see what wonderful candidates we're really lucky to have, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. So I thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.